All right, good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a short prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the MD that we have to live in. That is such a great area. Thank you for all the great people that live here, and pray your blessing on each and every one of them, and pray your guidance in this meeting, that you give us wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, just looking for a motion, or is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, then just looking for a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Fadeev.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Okay, that's carried, thank you. So we'll move on to adoption of the minutes from the February 13th council meeting. Okay, thank you, Councillor Subcheck, for a motion to adopt the minutes of the February 13th, 2024 council meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. So looking for the motion for the February 20th, 24 Committee of the Whole minutes. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Swigert. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. We're gonna skip ahead here and have the fire chief come up for the annual fire authority report.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for being flexible with your schedule for me today. I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming in.
So this morning, I'd like to present to you a year in review for the BRFA. It was a busy and eventful year, a number of fairly significant changes, taking over as the PSAP for the City of Cold Lake, as well as taking over as a dispatch center for Cold Lake Fire and Rescue and the CPO, their CPOs. Signing a dispatch agreement with Kiyuan First Nation, hiring a new Division Chief of Medical Operations, a new Assistant Division Chief of Medical Operations, a new office manager, and a new office admin. So what happens when you hire from within, you end up with a trickle down of having to backfill a whole bunch of other positions. BRFA took delivery of 2 MD pumpers, Pump 51 that serves out of Station 5 in Bonnyville, and Pump 60 that serves out of Station 6 in LaCorrie. We started phases 1 and 2 in their renovations in the new building. Pleased to be able to tell you that it looks like we are still on schedule for the interior renovations. They should be done first or second week of April. And then the remainder of the phase 2 outside work will continue to be done once the snow and ice has left us. We transitioned the 911 center to a new call handling and computer-aided dispatch software. So that would be the first significant step in our migration towards NG 911. So that puts us in a position where basically as soon as TELUS is ready, we're pretty much ready to start doing our transition testing. We received funding for power load stretchers from AHS shortly after the big shakeup that happened with them. All AHS units received those power load stretchers about 2.5 years ago, and then the tail end of 2023, they decided to finally bring all of the contracted services in line with the same pieces of equipment. We hosted a medal ceremony for both the Alberta and federal awards for the first time since 2019. So we were able to hand out about 60 different medals. Either the Alberta Emergency Services Medal, the 12-year or the 22-year version, as well as a number of federal exemplary service 20-year awards. We completed the organizational values project that is a piece of an appendix to what you have seen, or the package that's attached here. The final piece of that project is the newest set of organizational values that I'm hoping if we can throw that up on the screen, then council will have a chance to look at it. This was just released to the staff. It was approved by the board about 2 weeks ago. So this is the final piece of that project where we engaged the staff over the course of about 10 months for them to tell us what they believe the organizational values should be, and then also how we would define those organizational values, which is what you see in the value statements. That's what drove the generation of this document. So being that it is board approved, it was released Friday to the staff, where everybody's going to have a chance to look at it and then sign off on the document. I think to go along with that project, one of the pieces that's important, if you were to refer to the cover page of my report, you will see that's the second release of the newest logo of the BRFA. The first time that it was released was on the challenge coins, and then, oh, sorry, my apologies, I didn't get you the new logo in time. I was a little late in getting that to Matt. Offline, I can show you what the new logo looks like. We supported several local community agencies through public events such as the St. Paul Regimental Ball, Festival of Trees, the Native Friendship Center Masquerade Ball, and Kihiwin Cree Nation Powwow Committee Christmas Gala. We are happy to announce that the BRFA was nominated again for one of the Chamber of Commerce awards. However, because we had won the year before, we were not allowed to accept that nomination and carry forward with it, but it was still great to be able to announce that to the staff, that their hard work is being recognized by the community. If you take a look at the calls for service, comparing 22 to 23, we're seeing on the fire side, we're seeing a reduction in total fires. I would suggest that even though the number of fires was down from 22 to 23, I would say the magnitude of the fires was probably increased. Particularly when you take a look at the hours of activity, where the emergency response hours in 2022 were just over 9,100 hours, and there was over 9,500 hours in 2023, showing that, again, though the total numbers were down, the magnitude of the calls has increased. And then also showing the dedication of the members, significant increase in training numbers, as well as another increase in public education and fire prevention efforts, for a total of just under 18,000 hours. It probably wouldn't take you very long to run the formula as to how many FTE equivalents 18,000 hours accounts for. That's a lot of volunteer time coming out of the volunteer firefighters across all of our 7 stations. EMS continuing to see an increase in emergency calls with a decrease in interfacility transfers. I would suggest that although the system is getting a little bit smoother and we are not being called for quite as many transfers, that's also a product of the province-wide shortage of paramedics and not being able to fully staff all 3 of our cars all the time. So if we're missing cars, then a lot of times we're not picking up transfers, but that means they are available for emergency calls. Calls for service in the 911 center, significant jump from just under 60,000 total phone calls in 2022 to over 72,000 calls in 2023. The fire calls, much like we saw before, fire calls dispatched were a little less. CPO events that were dispatched were significantly higher, so a big jump in total dispatching events coming out of the center as well. That is what I have for a year-end report for you, Council, unless you have specific questions for me.
Yeah, Councillor Swaggart.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thanks. Thanks, Dan. I do get the question from folks about the new fire hall and sort of the schedule and stuff. So, do you have an update sort of on when you expect, I don't know, 9/11 to move in first, or I'm not sure what's going to happen, and sort of a timeline. And then the other question I've had from a lot of folks is the access to the highway, so they're not kind of sure where that's going. So maybe
Right.
you've got some input.
Yeah, so we're expecting the interior renovations to be done first couple of weeks of April. Then there'll still be a little bit of work that needs to be done to make sure that the 911 center is up and running. I expect to be moving administration and 911 there May, June of this year. Wouldn't be looking at moving EMS until we get the paving done around the center. So I would expect by the end of the year, and then I would also expect that early in 2025 is when Station 5 firefighters would move out there as well after a year of having the pavement settling and making sure that it's ready for the heavier vehicles. And I apologize, the second part of your question again was?
I guess it was the access to the highway.
Access to the highway. So when you take a look at where the building is situated, it sits kind of right on the final end of the curve in Highway 28. So by the time that we would have an access point that we would pitch to the province, it's far enough west on the property that when we make the application, we will probably make the application for an access to the highway westbound only. And then anything going to the east, we would go off on the township road and take just take the regular intersection onto the highway, because you're not going to save a whole bunch. You might save 30 seconds by the time you get far enough down the property to be able to get access to the highway. Based on you know, I won't say I'm an expert in what highways uses as a threshold to determine when they permit access to the highway, but I know that they're looking for a nice straight stretch to be able to give it. And it seems to make sense that if we were to make the application for westbound only, then we have a significantly higher chance of success than to pitch a two-way access either onto or off of the highway. So vehicles returning would still take the regular intersection and come in around the back.
Thank you.
We'll go Councillor Fadave and then Councillor Subjects.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the year in the past, but I want to look forward. We heard from the province. They're quite concerned on dry season, and since people are listening, what is BRFA and how is BRFA getting ready for the upcoming potential super crispy dry season? Right.
So, as you may know, the last week the province dropped a surprise change of fire season schedule on us without a whole lot of warning. Matter of fact, there was no warning other than we found out from the fire center in Lac La Biche at about 9 o'clock that morning that there was an announcement being made, but no idea what the announcement was releasing. Then we found out about it. As soon as we found out about it, we made contact with Matt and Louis to ask specifically the question of, okay, for the areas in the MD that are outside of the forest protection area, are we going to follow suit like we normally do? And being that was a change, we were going to be making an administrative process change prior to council having the opportunity to approve the fire guardians like you do every year. So everything was going to be ramped up and starting early. Trust me when I tell you, we knew going into the winter that the drought forecast for the spring was bad. We did our end of year We do an annual wrap-up with forestry at the end of the year, and they were very clear what their expectations of what the spring was going to look like. So we've been watching and ready for it, just like we would do every year. We're just starting earlier, so now the firefighters, as of this week, will start making sure that all of the wildland equipment is prepared and ready to go, even though it's kind of the two of the coldest days of the year here, yesterday and today. But they will definitely be paying attention to getting that equipment up and ready to go. And again, working hand in hand with forestry, we pay attention to their forecasts. We pay attention to what they're doing as far as controlling risk in the forest protection area. And then we will consistently bring that back to the MD to make sure that we're matching what they do. Even though the risk is different outside of the forest protection area, it obviously it would make things very confusing if we ran a different set of rules for half of the MD versus what's going on in the forest protection area.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Sawchuk?
Yeah, I got a few questions. Okay, so in the interim, will you be using the existing approach onto Highway 28?
Correct.
So because by the time the government approves to build a different approach, like be more
Or
ways
probably
down the
3 to
road.
5 years into the future.
Yeah. So are we looking at installing lights that are activated by the fire service? Okay.
That's the plan, yeah.
Okay. And another question I got is on the type of calls. You got 698 in 2022, 596 in 2023, but you got way more hours on less calls. Could you explain why that would be?
Yeah, I would suggest that's due to the magnitude of the calls, so bigger fires. Bigger fires, on scene longer, number of things that really stretch out our times are when we get structure fires where there's a significant loss to the building, where there's a lot of work to be done to overhaul and make sure that there's no further extension of fire, that we've reached the benchmark of loss stopped, as well as a number of fatality incidents. So if we had a couple of fires where we had fatalities as part of the fire, as well as motor vehicle collisions that involved fatalities, which really puts a strain on the system because you're either waiting for, in the case of a motor vehicle collision, you're waiting for a traffic analyst to come out of wherever they're coming from. The closest one is in St. Paul, but I pretty much guarantee you they're never responding to us from St. Paul. They're usually responding from another call somewhere else. So we're in the neighborhood of anywhere from an hour to 2 hours waiting for the traffic analyst to arrive. And then once the traffic analyst arrives, they do their thing. Then the final pieces that we usually do, number one is we would remove the victim and transfer them to the funeral home directly. And then the other piece that we normally do would be to assist the traffic analyst after the victims have been removed, where we would pull the black box out of the vehicle so that the traffic analyst can run the data to confirm that witness statements and all those kinds of things, so they can pull data directly from the vehicle.
Another question is on, just to help me understand, rescues. What type of rescues are you guys, like what do you, type of rescues are those?
Well, rescue is a pretty wide swath of things outside of motor vehicle collisions. So that would be, for example, assisting the ambulance here just a couple of weeks ago, where somebody had fallen off of a deck and spent a number of hours out in the environment, steep embankment, and where you've got a EMS crew of only 2 people trying to pull somebody up of a steep embankment, where we would go give them an assist. So that would be classified as a rescue, where we would classify it as a low slope rescue, where we would set up a rope system, use a basket stretcher to help bring somebody up the embankment.
Question, a couple more here. The pumpers, I noticed that you took delivery of pumper for Bonneville 51 and took delivery of pumper for LaCorey. So the old pumpers, they've gone to be sold off, or?
They have been in possession of the MD fleet. They've been in the yard since those vehicles came online. those two pumpers have been sitting in the yard. I'm not sure, once we gave them over to your fleet folks, I'm not sure if the intent is to sell them or if the intent is to hold on to them and see what shakes out with the upcoming Cherry Grove haul or not. But I believe they're still sitting in the yard out at the shop.
Yeah, because I'm just curious, because maybe even with us being concerned about the upcoming fire season, it'd be good to have these backups and sit
Yep.
on them to be prepared.
Absolutely. I know last year there were opportunities, and there may still be opportunities going forward this year. If this year is anywhere close to last year, there may be some opportunities for the MD to generate some revenue by renting those trucks to the province.
Last question is on the power stretchers. Can you tell us how they're going to help you guys, benefit you, so everybody can?
The hope behind the power stretchers, the reason that they were brought in is to minimize back injuries to paramedics. The ability of those stretchers, once the patient is on them, so not only do they have a power lift, and they can carry patients up to 400 pounds, not only is it power lift, but it's also power load, where once the stretcher is hooked up into the cradle, it doesn't take lifting power from the paramedics to get the stretcher into the back of the ambulance. So the hope is that technology that AHS pushed forward is going to reduce the total number of back injuries in paramedics across the industry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Any other question? Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Councillor Slater.
Mr. Deputy Reeve. Yeah, so you want to have fire protection area and the MD on kind of on the same fire calls or whatever, so that if there's,
We try to, yeah.
and so, but I'm just thinking though, like in the MD, you still see lots of folks burning right now because they're allowed permits. But if we decide to cancel burn permits, you know, kind of before the province says no more burns, then we'll be on different schedules. But is that still okay in your mind though? If we think we've got a more serious problem than they decide that they have, that we would cancel
Absolutely.
burn permits?
In the area of the MD that falls under the jurisdiction of the MD, meaning everything outside of the forest protection area, if you decided you wanted to take a stance that was stronger than what the province is currently running, that is absolutely your right to make that ask. My caution would always be, we've historically tried to follow what forestry does so that we consistently have the same rules across the MD, rather than, it's already a struggle for folks to figure out that if, you know, in the eastern end of the MD, if they're on the north side of 55, they're in the forest protection area, but their neighbor across the highway is not. Therefore, their permits get to come from the fire guardians versus they don't have to call the fire center. That's already a bit of a struggle at times. I would suggest if we're running two different sets of rules, you're creating confusion, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Fadеев.
Yeah, I think burn permits are required now, as of last week, right? Yeah.
As of now,
last-
burn permits are required.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so ultimately, the stance is essentially a fire advisory, so the only restriction is no new permits for unnecessary large burns will be given. So if somebody with a huge windrow that they wanted to burn down probably is not going to get a permit to do that, but other discretionary burning is still allowed.
Yeah.
But
I had a call
permit
on that,
necessary.
yeah.
So
I
the
had a
fire
call on that,
guardians have been
somebody
active.
asking me, and I says, I mean, it's dry season, like, wake up, like it's,
Absolutely,
You need a
and
permit,
you know
right?
what, I think folks have noticed it, in that we have received inquiries, and I know that Matt and Louie have received inquiries that they've passed along to me of, should we get a jump on this, and put a restriction in sooner than later?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, and thank you very much, Dick.
Okay, I'll leave you with one last thing. Probably would have noticed on social media that we have released notification to folks in the Cherry Grove area of the application process for for becoming a firefighter in that hall when it's ready. And my staff are currently working down the list of members, individually emailing them the application package so that everybody who came out and identified themselves that on that information night that we had in Cherry Grove, that they will individually get emails with the application package and the instructions.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. I know a lot of people are, they want to jump in like next month, but I told them it's
Absolutely.
not going to happen. But yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for coming, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we will move on to,
Oh, no.
oh, do we need a motion to receive it as, okay, sorry, you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to receive this as information as long as we get to see the new logo.
Okay, thanks, Don, for making the motion to receive the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority 2023 Annual Report as information. Okay, yeah, we can move on, yeah. Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Okay, we're gonna go to 9.22, appointment to fire guardians next, and then we'll get back on track with our agenda after that.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. We're here today to seek Council's approval for the appointment of fire guardians for the 2024 fire permit season. As the Forest and Prairie Protection Act, RSA 2000, Chapter F19, Section 4, Sub 2, the Council of the Municipal District shall appoint for a term not exceeding 1 year with effect from the beginning of the fire season a sufficient number of fire guardians to enforce this act within the boundaries of the municipal district, except the part of the municipal district that is within the forest protection area. In preparation for the 2024 fire permit season, the following individuals require appointment by the municipal district of Bonneville number 87 as fire guardians. Dan Heaney, Alicia Krawchuk, Dwayne Ethier, Ed Watrick, Vic Colledy, Baz Churko, Diane Jenkinson, and the following station chiefs require appointment as fire guardians as well. They will not be issuing permits, but need the appointment to be able to cancel permits in the event of an incident. Walter Smeal, Dan Amelia, Gordon Graves, Greg Wenzel, Robert Norton, Cordell Ackert, and Derek Newman. Additionally, we do have one more individual that needs to be identified, and that is Jennifer Gensler. The appointment is for 2024. In addition, Council should also make their annual motion allowing the Reeve or the Deputy Reeve in his absence to declare a fire ban in consultation with the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority. This allows for fast reaction to changing in fire conditions without the need to call a special council meeting to implement a fire ban. The reference to the strategic plan is to enhance safety in the community, and the reference is to provincial legislation of the Forest and Prairie Protection Act, RSA 2000, Chapter F19, Section 4, Sub 2. The cost is funded through the BRFA. Communications will be through the Rural Review newspaper and advertised in the MD and BRFA websites. And the recommendation from administration is that Council approve the individuals named as fire guardians in the Forest and Prairie Protection Act for the 2024 fire permit season. And furthermore, the Council authorizes the Reeve, the Deputy Reeve, and in the Reeve's absence, in consultation with the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority, to place and remove fire bans in the municipal district of Bonneville for the 2024 fire permit season. I can take any questions. I'm sorry, I know that's a mouthful.
Okay, is looking for questions or a motion? Okay, thank you, Councillor
I'll make a
Swager.
motion to approve.
Sorry, you missed it.
Okay, I think Councillor Swager already made the motion by show of hand. Thank you, Councillor Swager, for that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Actually, I guess I should read the motion here.
You already read it.
Okay, I think we can all see the motion. That council approves the following individuals for fire guardians, and furthermore, that council approves the reeve or deputy reeve in the reeve's absence in consultation with the Bonneville Regional Fire Authority to place and remove fire bans in the municipal district of Bonneville for the 2024 fire permit season. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Okay, that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We will go to business arising from the minutes to 6.1.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
This is the fourth quarter report for corporate services for 2023. Attached, you'll see reports from each department in the corporate services service area. And this is being presented to you for the purpose of maintaining transparency. The corporate services departments have prepared a quarterly report for council for performance indicators up to December 31st, 2023. The first department on the list is assessment services. And in Calvin's absence, I'm fortunate enough to be the one to present this. Assessment services, the first slide shows property tax revenue, comparison of 2023 versus 2022. Municipal levied in December of by December 18th, 2023, there was a total of 439,000. Municipal revenue increased by $439,814. So there were revised tax notices that were sent out at the end of 2023 to CNRL, Synovus, Strathcona Resources. Late in the year, assessment tax changes due to receiving information from the companies in mid to late 2023. So that's why the additional amount in 2023. The next slide shows the property tax properties, and you'll see that what was paid in 2022, there were of the total 12,788 properties, 1,133 accounts remained unpaid. In 2022, 13,921 total properties were levied. We paid, in 2023, 12,829 properties were levied and 1,099 accounts were unpaid. So that total is reducing. And for a total properties of 13,928 in 2023. The next slide just shows a summary of the total penalties that were levied in 2022 versus 2023. So the decline in penalty levies means that more people paid their taxes, which is a good thing. The property tax installment plan in 2022 had 1,223 customers, and in 2023 that number reduced to 1,209 properties that were paying by tax installment plan. The drop is due to people selling their properties and the new owners not signing up for that process at that time. We do, as a general rule, let everyone know that this option is available to people, so that is always an option for the new owners. The next slide shows some stats around our annual reinspection process. 100% of the reinspection cycle was completed. Ward 6 North Plant reinspection project is 100% completed, and Range 5 reinspection project is completed. There were 1,910 tax properties in Range 5. The next slide just shows that our annual insurance for the organization has increased a small amount from 2022 to 2023. And that's assessment services. I would ask, I'm happy to answer any questions about that if anybody.
Yeah, Counselor Swigert?
Yeah, it's not a big meaningful question, but on page 4 of that tax levy, what are we talking about here? Let's see. I guess what I was looking at is 5,469 residential accounts. So is that, that's the total number of residential accounts that we have this year?
In 2023, yes.
2023?
That were levied a property tax, yeah.
And then last year was less, 5,427. And why would it be, I mean, I guess it's not a big difference, but.
New development, new houses would be my off-the-cuff guess.
Because I didn't think we had that many new developments, but maybe. We'll find that out later.
I can ask Cal to verify that assumption, and he can send an email out when he returns.
Sure. It's just an interesting, I had no idea how many residential accounts we actually had in the MD. And then 22% of them are using that payment plan. Is that
That's right.
what the
yeah.
number was? Thank you.
Yeah, Counselor Fadeev?
Good morning. You can probably pass this along to Mr. Bespalko that this was the fastest, most efficient presentation ever done on assessment.
Thank you. I think.
He's not here. I can't razz him. Anyways, so I know on the non-residential part there was a dispute. Has that been resolved from the commercial sector? From the energy sector, sorry.
That the tax assessment appeal, is that what you're speaking of? That is just winding up.
Okay.
We are waiting for the final calculations to be able to present to council what the total impact of that appeal decision has been on the organization. But there is a
Could you also remind me how
impact.
long the appeal process took?
Pardon me?
How long the appeal process took? Do you remember?
I believe through the Deputy Reeve, I believe the first year that was appealed was 2019.
Okay.
And it included all of the years from 2019 to 2022.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, Counselor Swigert?
So you're giving us too much time to look at stuff, so I have another question, sorry. Property tax revenue on the second chart. It may be nice to have a breakdown, unless I'm missing it, between industrial and residential, because that's probably a total, isn't it?
Through the Deputy Reeve, yes, that is the total. It's not it's not broken down. So certainly in our first quarterly report for 2024, we could certainly include that.
I think it would be nice to know the difference. I mean, I know there's a huge difference, but it'd be nice to see that.
Just the difference between industrial
and residential?
And the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I guess I'll ask this question. The difference between levied and collected, because you did a lot of talking and I wasn't quite sure, because you talked about sort of some industrial stuff that came in later or something. So what's the difference between collected and levied in
So through the Deputy Reeve, what was levied is what we actually billed. So we calculated that based on the tax rate bylaw, and that's what we sent out as accounts receivable. What was paid is when the customer comes in and pays it. So the unpaid portion is the amount that is still outstanding on our accounts receivable.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, Councillor Slipchak?
Okay, I got a question on the, you say 22% of residents, 22% of residents are on the tax, on the payment plan?
Yes.
Is it a benefit for us for them to be, bigger benefit for us, for them to be on the payment plan? Or in what way is it a benefit?
So through the Deputy Reeve, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So the benefit is that we do get revenue in earlier. The downside is that we don't get all of the revenue in by the due date. So when people are on the tax installment plan, their property tax bill is prorated across the year. So they make a payment in every month of the year. So ordinarily, we'd receive all of our property tax revenue by September 15th was last year's due date, or September 30th, one of those, sorry. In the case of the tax installment plan, we are still receiving some revenue in October and November and December. So it's about 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It is very much more convenient for our customers who are more able to budget, and it's not such a shocking hit at property tax due time.
So what would we prefer, to being monthly on payment, as an NMD, being monthly payments, or collecting them as monthly, or once a year?
I don't really think that it makes that big a difference, because we've only got 22% of our tax base paying on this plan. If we had 100%, it would make a difference to our cash flow. So we'd have to have a different strategy with our cash flow and how we manage our investments compared to what the expenditure need was.
So if we look at those numbers, they become a bigger benefit for us to have to get people on a monthly payment plan. Is there something that we could do to entice them to come on, where they get if you come on, you'll get a saving of a certain amount in a year?
I think that through the Deputy Reeve, I think that we do advertise this option, and I think that is something that people know is available to them if they choose to take advantage of it. And from my perspective, I think that that's an adequate bonus due to the fact that they're not penalized for late payment on the property tax notices after the due date. So they are already getting a benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so next up is finance.
Sorry,
Through the
CAOs.
chair, before council makes a motion to receive any of these reports for information, we do need to remove them from the table.
Okay. Do you want us to do that right now?
Yes, if you don't mind, just a motion to lift from the table.
Okay,
I'll make the motion to lift it off the table.
thank you, Councillor Fadeev. We'll call for the vote. That's carried, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Deputy Reeve and Council.
Good morning.
I'm here to do the 2023 Finance Fourth Quarter Activity Report. So it's starting with the Payables Department. For the 3 months ending in 2023, we had 2,737 invoices, which was 375 more invoices than 2022. The disbursements paid out was $40,793,308.15, which was a little over $314,000 increased from 2022. Moving on to utilities, we billed out for the 3 months a total of $151,190.98, which is just a little over $50,000 per month. The total outstanding we had for current was $7,073.97, and a lot of customers are prepaying their utility bills due to the bylaw that was approved on December 12th, that if they were in arrears, that the outstanding amount would be put to taxes after a 90-day outstanding aging. So that's really good news. Moving on to the receivables. We billed out for October, November, December a total of $381,670.41, just a little over $127,000 a month. The total outstanding for receivables is $158,529.37, and it usually takes our customers for accounts receivable up to 45 days to pay that. So that's why you're seeing a bit of an increase on the outstanding with the current and the 31 to 60, but very slim outstanding in the 61 to 120 days aging. Just as a quick note to let you know, the 2023 year has not been completed or closed yet, as the auditors are on site this week, and they will be requesting information throughout the month of March, and they will be scheduled to present to Council April 9th and have the full year overview at that time. So, are there any questions for me?
Yeah, Councillor Swigert?
What, can you define the receivable? Give me an example of what those are.
Receivables are when we have our waste customers. We also have, like if Kinnasoo, the schools go in, what they do is they send us their invoices, and then we put it together on our system and then send it out to the customers. So accounts receivable is something that we have as a billing department for customers throughout the MD that we would have to charge them money to collect back.
Okay, so it's kind of, it's extra income from the MD from the sale of Kinnasoo tickets or that sort of thing, rather
Kinnasoo
than...
tickets, waste services, public safety when they do securities, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yep.
All right.
That's everything for me.
Don't see any other questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
I'm here to present the Human Resources 2023 fourth quarter on behalf of Darlene. So on the first page is recruitment at a glance. As you will note, there is a decrease for 2023, the fourth quarter of 2023. That is because we had less positions to post, and our seasonal staff at Kinnasoo was decreased a slight bit. When you look at the bottom of the page, however, the resumes that we did receive during that quarter were substantially higher, and that is a reflection of the current market. For any position that we are currently posting, we are receiving 2 to 3 times as many resumes as we have in 2022 year. Next slide. The next slide is to do with the health and wellness account. In the fourth quarter for 2023, we did show a decrease of claims made by 17.75%. Even though that shows a decrease, it is actually a positive thing, and that is because the staff is using the health spending account earlier in the year, and therefore, when I looked at 22 to 23 overall spending, they're almost identical in the amount. It's just all the claims are coming in earlier, and currently looking at 2024, that looks like it's going to continue to be that way. Employee retention, it does show that we are increasing through October to December to approximately 225 active MD staff. That is because of the seasonal staff that has to be hired for Kinnasoo during the latter part of the year. The same will go for the new hires, and terminations are less because most of our staff was terminated, our summer seasonal staff was terminated in October with some being kept on that are now completely gone and replaced by the winter seasonal staff. The next slide is your employee workforce by age. The importance of this is the one thing that we need to draw to your attention to is the large number of staff that are above the age of 55, which means that 30% or 25% of your workforce will be retiring from the MD within the next 5 to 10 years. And when you combine that as well with the tenure of the staff, that age group is also the staff that has the largest tenure, therefore has the knowledge base, the historical data to do with their positions and are very specialized in their positions. And that's all I have for HR, unless you have any questions.
Councilor
Yeah, I
Dave?
think you made a mistake on that 55. Like, isn't 55 like the new 35? Right?
I would like to think
Come on,
so.
come on, come on.
Yeah, hopefully they're here till they're 75, right?
Yeah.
Councilor Slager?
Interesting, the chart on employee retention, it's kind of show, like, I'm not really sure how many staff are at the MD, sort of year by year, and that's sort of an interesting chart showing active employee retention. It may be interesting to have sort of a historical chart of showing, you know, over the years, what has the MD numbers, I guess, being for personnel. Because this one's showing for December, because I guess because of Kinnessoo, we should have about 225 staff.
Correct. Yes.
And then compared to last year, they had, you know, 175 staff or whatever. But it'd be nice to see kind of your, you know, over the years, and maybe the HR person can kind of come up with that.
I will make that suggestion to Darlene on your behalf.
Yeah, well,
and
thank you.
maybe we can have that presented with the first quarter of the next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, just looking
Thank
for,
you.
thank you.
So I'm fortunate in being the next mark as well today. The first slide shows total help desk tickets, and it shows you kind of a historical look at help desk tickets. You'll see that in 2020 and 2021, the numbers were up quite a bit, and that was due to COVID and people working from home. The next slide represents a fourth quarter view of the number of tickets or help desk requests that have come into IT. The next slide shows ticket resolution times. And it is interesting that 42% of tickets were resolved within an hour and 67% were resolved within 5 hours. So the help desk team does a pretty good job of addressing issues as they arise. The next slide represents the risk score. So with our security, or our IT security, our current risk score is 8.1. This score can change drastically within short periods depending on the number of spam and phishing attempts that occur during any point in time. The industry score is about 7.5, and the ideal score is about 4, which is almost impossible to attain. But we are doing not too bad. We have received 377 new risks in the last 30 days. We've mitigated 1,300, and we've got unresolved risks of 1,042. Those are, those are risks that are considered very low and so haven't been top of mind, but they'll be dealt with as well. So the next screen is our security coverage score, which represents key security metrics as well as how well our environment is engaged with the managed detection and response services. The coverage score is comprised of 4 components: configuration, monitoring, ticketing, and external scans. So our score to make 100% is 83.8% of all customers, 85.5% is what the industry score is, and our score is 82%. Or an average organization of our size is 82%. You can tell this isn't my gig, right? And so I'm doing my best. But I will do my best to try to answer questions if you have any.
Yeah, Councillor Fadеев.
Good morning again. So when this chart came up, and it says the IT report for DMD of Bonneville, does that include everybody that we service as well? Or is just,
This is just
DMD? Just
Through
us?
the Deputy Reeve, it's just us, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, CAO.
And through the chair to council, we're going to be embarking here fairly quickly. We've had some conversations at the senior level, and we've indicated we've got some risks that pop up occasionally. And one of the things that council is going to see is that we're going to be quite hardcore about presentations coming in with a flash drive to go on the system that hasn't been vetted by IT. Those things are going to come to a fairly significant halt. Members of the public, delegations who want to bring a PowerPoint are going to have to get it into our IT department or get it into the legislative service department so we can get those things vetted. Staff taking equipment home or taking flash drives home and doing work at home on their home computer and then transferring that work onto a flash drive to bring it back. We're going to be having some serious discussions about what that IT security looks like. But in particular, the stuff coming from the outside could be filled with malware, Trojan horses, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to be taking a pretty dim view in the future of somebody just wanting to put a flash drive on our network system to do a presentation to council. We're going to be requesting that that gets screened by IT before it's put on the system. So people are just going to have their presentations done early enough to get it through our IT vetting system.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Morning, Council. I'm here to report, to give the fourth quarter report for occupational health and safety. In the fourth quarter, we averaged about 206 employees working 80,000 hours. The first 2 metrics that we look at in safety are the lagging indicators. The first one here, you see injury. We were down slightly in the fourth quarter of 23 in comparison to 2022. Lagging indicators measure the occurrence and frequency of events that occurred in the past and focus on unwanted outcomes such as injury as well as property damage. These lagging indicators take a long time to change. We finished with a similar number of injuries in 2022 overall. In our property damage lagging indicators, we see that it's down significantly in Q4. I apologize, it should say Q4 up there. I would attribute this to better inspections, better hazard hunts, and of course the unseasonably warm weather, which is happier on our equipment, basically. With lagging indicators, we want to see the numbers go down year over year. And we see this as in 2023, the total property damage was 26 as compared to 31 in 2022. As lagging indicators go down, we want to see our leading indicators come up. Here, the near miss reporting, you can see it's just up slightly in Q4 of 2023. This doesn't depict the entire year. We did work very hard in 2023 to visit our workers, help them incorporate better safety choices and habits. And these leading indicators have helped us gather more data to develop programs to target worrisome areas. We are just up slightly here in Q4, but overall we had 38 near misses in 2023 compared to just 19 in 2022, so up substantially there. For our hazard identification in Q4 over Q4 in 2022, we had a jump of 4. In all of 2022, we just had 5 HIDs, so hazard identification. So they really soared in 2023 to 17. These HIDs include things like loose railings, uncovered holes, defective tools, ice buildup, heaving sidewalks, missing steps, and all of these we are able to get ahead of and fix them prior to an incident happening. So that's why these leading indicator reporting is very important. Another leading indicator is our task and facility inspections, and you'll see we had a 31% increase in Q4 last year. During worksite inspections, we take the opportunity to observe what is happening. We look at worker behaviors, we check for implemented corrective actions, and have teaching moments with our employees. The movement to digital has allowed us to easily assign corrective actions, and in Q4 we incorporated a software module called task assignments, which allows us to close the loop, so follow up corrective actions and make sure that we're closing the loop. And this has been very effective in our worksite inspections. And then finally, equipment inspections. We've always done equipment inspections. However, we've worked hard in 2023 to move to electronic reporting. So this chart shows the uptick in the various quarters of equipment inspections. This type of reporting ensures our fleet is running. It makes sure that preventative maintenance is being done and we can identify hazards in driving and operations before we even start for the day. And again, the MD formerly did this in paper format, but the move to electronic reporting has helped us to track this much easier. And then the last metric we have in leading indicators, of course, is hazard assessments. Workers get hurt because they're not identifying the hazard. So if you haven't identified the hazard, you certainly aren't able to control it. We have moved this metric as well to electronic reporting. And you can see the progression through the year. For example, in Q3, we had over 2,000 hazard assessments, and these are sent to the supervisors of each of those workers every morning, and they're submitted for supervisor review. Electronic reporting allows supervisors and ultimately the safety team to really look at what the employees are thinking, and we can take the opportunity to correct it if it's necessary. Also in Q4, we received our audit score of 910 out of 1,000, so that was a 5% increase from the previous core audit in 2022. We have an action plan to target areas such as emergency response, investigations, and the Health and Safety Committee, and I'm forecasting a 4% increase for our audit in 2024. So in summary, in occupational health and safety, we've been analyzing the data and translating it into education on the worker level, with lagging indicators trending down and leading indicators trending up. We are positioned for a healthy safety program in 2024. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, looks like you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, the recommendation is that council accepts the Corporate Services 2023 fourth quarterly report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Fadeo, for making the motion that council accepts the Corporate Services 2023 fourth quarterly report as information. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Slater?
Yeah, sorry. I hate to back it up a little bit, but just a bit of a question on the IT thing. Do we have a virus protection that runs on these devices? I got to assume so, but I'm not seeing it. But maybe they think because they're Apple, they don't need it.
Anything that is on the network has some level of protection. So if you're on the network with your computer, with your iPad, And I'm pretty sure all of the iPads that are prepared for council have already, whatever can be on the iPad is already downloaded and probably updated through the network. But the moment you hook up to the network is definitely protected.
No, I'm just thinking about like at home use and you know, because I don't see a virus protection on it, so a lot of Apple products kind of say they don't need it, but I think it would be wise to have something.
I would have to confirm with the IT department. I'm pretty sure there's something on all of them, but I'd have to double check to see exactly what it looks like. On some IT products, particularly if you're on an IBM type product, it comes up as a separate item. A lot of the Apple stuff is integrated into the operating system. I'll just confirm with IT, and we can certainly send out an answer to council.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll wait. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's just after 10. I think we're going to take a couple minutes for a break here, and then we'll get into our delegation. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order, and we have a delegation from the Northern Lights Library System, so come on up, James. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It's always surprising how quick it comes around that it's been a year. You'll have a piece of paper on your desk. I am sending this electronically to administration later. Sorry, it came in a little late. I needed to avoid the IT pat down, apparently, that I might have got if I sent it in electronically. So, old school. Northern Lights is doing really well. We just had a clean audit. Our board meeting was earlier last week, or late last week. The municipal district here has 2,100 library cards circulating the system. You can generally think about that as households with library cards. Usually it's one per household. We circulated in 2023 over 151,000 books to those 2,100 households. You said think about that as an average, it's around 70 books per home. When you break that down, you know, you're saving each household thousands of dollars a year and not having to purchase those books. They also circulated, you're up in your e-book circulation and your e-audio book circulation, almost 20,000 e-books and e-audio books to your residents, which is pretty significant, all totaling around almost $5.5 million worth of value. So you're saving your residents quite significantly. To be a member of Northern Lights Library System, you pay that annual levy. It costs at the MD about $137,000. Out of that, Northern Lights takes $27,000 and puts it directly into the purchase of books. That goes into the hands of your local libraries that serve your community, and in your case, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and now Glendon Public Library. You also, because of your membership in Northern Lights, qualify for the provincial Rural Services Grant. That's an additional $70,000, which you currently split between Cold Lake and Bonnyville. So that comes to Northern Lights, and then we redistribute it in cooperation with you. All in all, just looking at these figures, just the circulation value, not all the other fun things we do like reading programs, etc. You're getting back $48.69 for every dollar that you've invested into Northern Lights, which is pretty significant. And it makes a difference in people's lives. You're part of something bigger, of course. You're, the system circulation value for the entire Northern Lights system is about $28 million. So MD of Bonnyville makes up a pretty good percentage of that at $5.5 million worth of value. We purchased almost 20,000 new books coming into the system last year. Our electronic circulation is up significantly from about 120,000 to almost 150,000. So people are starting to use those online resources more and more. And you know, the levy cost of $5.39, because you don't have a library board, you pay both of those sides, so it's $10.78 is what our current 2024 levy will be, $10.78 per person. The provincial government, we're grateful for letters of endorsement last year. The province did come to the table with a little bit more money, so since 2015, we did get an uptick in 2023, we went from $4.70 to $4.75, and there were some upticks to your local appropriations as well from the province. We appreciate Josh on the board and on the executive at Northern Lights. He's brings a lot to the table, and so he's aware, and hopefully the rest of you are aware, that we continue to try to be modest in our asks. We are continuing forward with the 1.5% about a year, which is well under inflation, and trying to make that consistent just for your own budgeting purposes, and of course for our budgeting purposes, so that we can meet inflationary needs. But that's about it. Congratulations again on Glendon joining. I think council will receive a letter, or if they haven't already, around some of the issues around Glendon and the monies there. But if you have any other questions or about this report or others, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Swaggart.
Yeah, now that you're here, that's good, actually, because we did have some questions about the Glendon Library, because there was discussions about Northern Lights library system and how they were going to interact with that, and I'm not sure if, in my mind, that was kind of clear what was going on at the time. So maybe talk a little bit about the Glendon Library and then how they, because I think they're coming up.
Yeah, I think they're
But
next.
I think they're next, but
Noreen.
so they're funded though they are funded now from Northern Lights library system, and talk about that, because they're taking a percentage of,
Sure.
I guess,
So-
funding from Bonneville, Coal Lake, whatever.
Yeah, so what happens is, and it's detailed in the letter, and I think Maureen will speak to it as well, there's essentially two kind of pots of money available to our libraries. One is a provincial grant called the Rural Services Grant. As members of Northern Lights, the MD as a member qualifies for that. It's essentially $5.60 per person based on the 2019 Municipal Affairs Population List. So that actually comes out to, it's right here on that, it's about $70,000. Glendon just opened, and so prior to their opening, you would split that money. It comes to Northern Lights, and we split it on your behalf. You'd split that, I believe it's 32% to Cold Lake, and 68% of that money goes to Bonneville. So with Glendon coming on board, they're paying their levy to Northern Lights, et cetera, but they also serve your community. Now council probably needs to think about, how would we want to split this up now that we have 3 libraries serving the MD population? Technically, it is the money comes to the Northern Lights Board, and the board makes the decision, but it's been our tradition and our culture to work with councils to determine how do we split that money up. So we don't want to do anything that the council would not be in favor of. So that's the one pot of money, the Rural Services Grant. I believe Glendon will ask for about 10% of that, which I think is reasonable, and I outlined kind of the idea of it in the letter. The other pot of money is the book allotment. So of the $10.78 that you're paying to be a member of Northern Lights, we take $2.15 per person. We put that into a book allotment. And right now we split that 70% Bonneville, 30% Cold Lake. That money stays with Northern Lights, but they use it, they order books through us, we purchase on their behalf. That's the other pot of money, how to distribute that. One thing to keep in mind about the book allotment, it doesn't really matter which library buys the books. They're all usable by all of your patrons, right? What does matter, though, is having some nice books in a new library like Glendon, so that your MD residents, when they go in there, they're finding stuff on the shelf that is appealing to them. So those are the 2 pots of money, the book allotment and the Rural Services Grant. And you're not the only kind of council in this predicament. Legal just joined out in Sturgeon County, and so they've gone from 5 libraries to 6, and essentially are having to make that decision too of how do we split this equitably across all of our libraries.
Okay, so I'll ask it. So it isn't finalized yet. So because you've said so who initiates that discussion?
Well, we've sent you a letter. You should have it. Well, we sent it yesterday, so you probably haven't seen it yet. And so we're hoping to initiate that discussion with you. This is the choices, essentially, and we've made a recommendation. The board has made a recommendation to say, this is how we think you should do it, but ultimately, we're looking to council to say, yeah, we think that's equitable and reasonable. Ultimately, like I say, the board could make those decisions unilaterally, but we don't want to do that. We want to involve council.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then thank you so much for coming.
Bet.
And you're certainly welcome to stick around if you want to stick around for a little
I
while.
will, yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
All right, we will, I guess we're just looking for a motion to accept the Northern Lights Library System Board as information. Yeah, thank you, our Councillor Subcheck, for the motion. Okay, it's moved by Councillor Subcheck that council accepts the presentation. Oh, that's the one, sorry, wrong one here. Moved by Councillor Subcheck that council accepts the presentation by the Northern Lights Library System on the 2023 review and overview of 2024 projects as information. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, that's carried. Now we'll move on to the Glendon Library Board delegation. So come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for hearing us again, and I'm saying us because our library manager, Carla Payton, was supposed to be here with me today. I am the board chair, Noreen Cotton, but last minute scheduling conflicts came up. She had a sub lined up to cover for her so she could come in, and that sub canceled last minute, and she was unable to find a replacement. So I will do my very best to try to carry through her enthusiasm and passion for the public library. She has prepared a very short PowerPoint, which I'll go through shortly. But before I do that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Council for your past financial support that you gave us last fall. With that support, we were able to enjoy a successful focus group and grand opening, and we were able to purchase some equipment and furniture to get us started to ensure that we made a good impression at our grand opening. We bought 2 computers and 2 laptops for public use, and we also bought some comfortable furniture in our efforts to transition a school library into a public library. There's lots of work to do. And there's also some funds that we're able to set aside as a result of your support for our future purchases, which is going to take place in the next few weeks or months, and that's a Xerox machine, more furniture, some cabinetry, shelving, Kobo readers. There's a list that Carla has made of our initial purchases that we need to make, including another $5,000 worth of books, and it totals about $25,000. So with that support that we received from you, we can use that money and we don't have to tap into our operating fund. So very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And again, before I get into the PowerPoint, I want to let you know that last time I was here, I got some advice from Council, and I took Council's advice to do my homework and find out how the Rural Services Grant works and the book allotment. And James just explained it all, so I'm not going to explain it again. But we did learn that, and that helped us to determine what percentage we would like to ask of that Rural Services Grant and the book allotment. So using the population numbers, the catchment area that Glendon School pulls from Alberta Transportation to bring the students into the Glendon School is 945 square kilometers. And using the population density of the MD of 2.1 per square kilometer, that means 1,984 MD residents have the potential to be served by the Glendon Public Library. And doing the math, 1,984 out of the total population of 12,760. That's the number that Northern Lights Library System uses to determine the levy, so that's what we used. That comes up to 15%. So that means that 15% of the population of the MD has the potential to be served by the Glendon Library. So we feel at this time it's reasonable to ask for 10% at this time of the Rural Services Grant and the book allotment. So that's how we came up with 10%. And we also realize that with the Glendon Public Library coming on board in the MD, that means that the Bonnyville Library will be receiving less money from the Rural Services Grant and less of the book allotment. So that concerned me especially. So what I did was I contacted the board chair of the Bonnyville Library, and they invited us for a tour. So Carla and Sabrina and I, Sabrina is the library manager assistant. We went for a tour of the Bonnyville Library, and the chair was there, the library manager, and all the staff, and they happily gave us a tour and welcomed us as one of their partners. So I was very happy to have that very positive reception from them. And we talked about partnership opportunities, how we can support each other. For example, if they were bringing in a guest speaker from Edmonton, we would share the transportation costs, and we would host them the next day and things like that. As Joanne said, just looking at the bigger picture, it's all about increasing membership and enriching communities with libraries. So it was a very positive meeting, and very glad that we did do that. So, okay, so I'll go through Carla's PowerPoint. This is a list of our board members, and I think we're quite fortunate in a small village like Glendon to have 9 board members serving on our board, and that includes Councillor Kriviak. We appreciate very much that Council had approved him to sit on our board. He's been a very valuable addition. The Libraries Act allows us to have up to 10, but we feel that 9 is good, but we're definitely would accept anybody else that applied to be on our board. So there's a couple of pictures of the grand opening that was held on January 27th. So January 27th in the morning, we held our focus group, and I'll talk about that in a minute, what that is, and also the grand opening in the afternoon. And this is what we were gearing up to, how the Council's financial support helped us prepare for, and it was a very successful event. As you can see, over 100 people were there, and the most common comment that we heard during that event is, I had no idea that a library was this diverse and had this many services. So it was really, really good. Programming, Carla and Sabrina, to keep the momentum going, have hit the ground running. They've developed partnerships with various groups in the community, and they're putting on workshops. They've already put on a workshop just last week on blanket making. It filled up immediately, and it was so popular they're going to have 2 more sessions. There's members of the community that have offered their skills, pierogi making night in the works and those kinds of things. So it's really, really important that they keep the momentum going, keep the public awareness going to get the library as successful as possible. So the programming has already started. They've got ideas, because really in Glendon, and like many small villages, there's nothing to do in the evenings for youth. So there's a lot of work going to be putting into craft nights for younger kids and other sessions for youth as well. So the focus group, I'll just explain a little bit what the focus group is. So every public library has to start with a community consultation. So they do that in having a focus group session where a good cross-section of the community is invited to this session, and that included businesses, seniors, youth, community groups, service groups, stay-at-home moms, as many different populations as we could think of were invited, and over 20 people came. James facilitated that session for us. And what it was a community consultation where we're hearing from the community, what do you want to see in a library? What services and programs are important to you? What will help make your life better? And this feedback and comments were collected, and it's going to be used now in our next session, which is going to be quite a major session where we come up with our vision, mission statement, core values, and strategic plan. A strategic plan in library words is a plan of service. So we had a very successful focus group. Again, it was in the morning, and the afternoon we had the grand opening. A little bit of statistics that Carla has been able to gather. 115 patrons for library cards. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we've only been open 1 month. So it's quite an accomplishment that we're excited to share. And an average of 2 to 5 people in the public library after school hours, including Saturdays. So that is really, really exciting as well, because we have no idea how the people were going to respond to a public library, and the response has been overwhelming. And again, partnerships have been formed already. The library has been contacted by outside organizations wanting to partner with sessions as well. And they've reached out to Alberta Health Services to do some mental health work, and like I said, they've hit the ground running, and the ideas are coming from all over the place. We've got a lot of ideas from Bonnyville as well, from their library. Okay, and there's our budget, proposed budget for 2024. As you can see, our ask is $20,000, and we realize that that is quite a bit above the $7,000, which is the 10% of the Rural Services Grant. And we also realize that your budget deliberations have been done for the year, but this is our ask, and this would be like in a perfect world. This is how we would operate for 2024. Excuse me, and as you can see, the Village of Glendon has committed $25,000 for this year, and that's confirmed. Okay, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Councillor Fadeo.
No, I was just going to ask what VOG stood for, but you just told me Village of Glendon.
Village of Glendon, yes.
Thank you. I hate acronyms.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a question here. So, I mean, your desktop analyses are quite generous. I think they're wrong, but overall, I mean, it's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, we're all fighting over the same dollar here, with especially getting that taken out of the town, and it's definitely something. Thanks for bringing this so we can actually look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming out today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're just looking for a motion then. Okay, that's for option one. Okay, thank you, Councillor Slipchuk, for making a motion that council accepts the presentation by the Glendon Library Board on their event and session successes as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring the request for funding support to a future meeting of council for consideration. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Deputy Chair.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear in my mind then, the 10% that they're asking from the Northern Lights Library System isn't included in this budget, or is it? So is that the 11,761? No,
that's included in the 20,000.
That's included in the what?
20 that we're requesting from the MP. Because that money goes through you.
Okay, so you're not clear.
I
actually, on
think the
that.
question is how much of that 20,000 is, we're not sure where the 20,000 is coming from. Is it just coming from the money that we already allocate to libraries, or is it above and beyond?
Through the chair to council, it's my understanding, looking at the budget and understanding the funding formula, 7,000 of the 20,000 will come from the grant. That will be reduced from the Bonnyville Library's money. And if I'm understanding correctly, the other 13,000 would be asked for directly from council.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks for that clarity.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion? Okay, then we'll call for the vote. Okay, that's carried, thank you. We'll move on to 6.2, Infrastructure Services, 2023 fourth quarterly report.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion and take this off the table.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the motion. Yeah, we'll just call for the vote on that one.
Mr. CEO, can I just get clarification? If it's, I assumed it's already been brought off the table because it's in our agenda, but you're saying no.
They were tabled at the last meeting because.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it, but they're in our agenda, and so we have to untable them? I didn't think we...
Correct. They're on as an agenda item from business arising from previous minutes, but as the item was placed on the table at the last council meeting, we need a motion to remove them from the table. Even though they're on the agenda, council could say, nope, we were going to leave them on the table and discuss it another time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Did you vote on that? Okay. Good morning, Council. I'm here to present the Infrastructure Services 2023 fourth quarterly report. Infrastructure Services has prepared the quarterly updates for Q4, and I will be presenting them. So the first one is the transportation. I'll go to that one. So going through the slides here, brushing and ditch improvements. This quarter, our internal brushing crew performed 6.5 kilometers of roadside brushing, as well as additional smaller spot locations. 5 kilometers completed on Range Road 420, north of Township Road 610. 1.5 kilometers has been brushed at Township Road 600, west of Highway 897. Excuse me. And Ardmore back alleys have also been cleared, and that was an issue from the action from the concerns list. Next to drainage improvements, completed Priority 1, Vincent Creek drainage, Bonnyville welding to Highway 660. Phase 1 and 2 now are complete on the Vincent Creek drainage.
I think we have a question here for you.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry there, Brian. I was just going to ask questions before you jump to the next.
Sure.
So I was going to ask you about the brushing, because I was under the impression that we were tendering out brushing contracts. So we're doing both now?
Through the chair, yeah, we do both. We do some internal roadside brushing, just to keep our crews busy, save a little bit of money in the interim, and then when we have, in the summertime, we have our brushing program that we tender out for a larger chunk of the brushing. There's no way that we could keep up and catch up to the brushing that we have. That's why we have the brushing programs typically scheduled for either the spring. Last year we had the contractor doing it in the summertime, because they had a biologist on staff where they could do the bird sweeps during the summer, which is what you need to be doing for the brushing. But typically it's spring or fall, winter work. But yeah, we do a little bit to keep ourselves busy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, continuing on with drainage. The Beaver River drainage project, AEP has now closed that file. Monitoring and reporting are no longer required. We had to do that for a couple of years. Everything came back really good, and they've signed off on the project. In progress, we have Water Act approval application for Township Road 610 culvert replacement. We verifying approvals on priority number 4 of the map, registered ditch from Highway 55 and 463. And we continue to monitor Country Lane and Countryside drainage, and the MD Yard topsoil. We had an incident there, so we're continuing to monitor those locations for any other issues that might come up. Pit reclamations. We started rough grade reclamation and subsoil replacement on the LaCroix pit and the Red Springs pit and the Medley pit. So we started that. We have some gravel pits to reclaim, and this is where we're at. 5% on LaCroix, 5% on Red Springs, and about 60% on Medley.
Where is the Red Springs pit?
Red Springs pit is on the east side of the MD, I believe, on close to the border.
But a settlement there in that area? Okay.
I think that's where
that's what it's called?
that one.
I wasn't
Red Springs
sure.
Pit is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where that one
Nice
is.
camping site.
Okay. I hope I got that right. Purchase, so an RFT for the 2023 Designation 6 Class 80 modified gravel purchase was awarded, and we received 9,000 tons of this product. It was hauled into the yard, and it'll be used for our operations. So 680 is about a 3-inch crush spec.
Mr. Chair? Yeah, Brian, can I just ask you about gravel pits? There's a gravel pit on the east side of the MD, right on the border. We never called it Red Springs, though. It's an active, I think it's still an active pit. We've got lots of gravels. Do we still have, I haven't been there for years,
Okay.
so can you talk a little bit about that gravel pit, just while you're talking about
That gravel pit,
reclamation?
yeah, that gravel pit is still in use. I thought Red Springs was a little further south than that on the other side of the river, but I could be, again, I could be wrong. Pardon me?
On the other side.
I think so. I think that we have one on one side of the river, one on the other.
Okay.
And again, I apologize if I got the name of that pit wrong.
So you're probably thinking of the north side, and this is on the south side.
Yeah, I think,
This is-
I'm thinking, I think I'm thinking of the one on the north side that's still
Yeah,
active.
it is still active.
Yeah.
And
There
we-
is one that's still active, absolutely. We still have a lot of gravel in there that we're using as needed from that location. So, yeah,
So
that's still an active gravel.
If you're at that gravel pit, if you go look across the river, going southeast, that's where that it's right on the border.
Okay, and so I'll call it the east pit or whatever, the one I'm talking about. Did we ever clear that up with the province that we can still mine that pit if we want to, or did they put in, because there was lots of gravel there. We had a contract to extract gravel. And I think the province kind of told us maybe to stop because they didn't realize there was so much gravel there. But I'm not sure if we're still mining for gravel or if we're just using what's there. I think there's still lots of gravel there, but like that hasn't been dug up yet.
That's news to me about the province getting involved on anything. So I'll have to look into that. I don't know that the province told us that we couldn't do anything more, any more excavation in there and any more crushing. I know that we've stopped because we have a good stockpile there, but I don't know anything about the province telling us that we can't do any more mining there. But
Yeah,
I will,
you can check that,
I'll check.
because at the time there, yeah, it was a provincial pit and we were given permission to crush. But I think once the guys that were actually mining it, there's lots more there. And I think we were told maybe not to. Anyway, you can check, thanks.
Okay, I will look into that. All right, so some additional works. Transportation completed the rough grading and surface graveling of the additional parking lot to accommodate winter activities at Kinnasoo. So we did a gravel parking lot extension there. And the last one, the concerns received. Calls were lower than usual due to lack of snowfall in the fourth quarter. As of January 26th, there were only 3 concerns registered as incomplete: 1 icy road, 1 hardship, and 1 pothole repair. As of February 23rd, there were 0 incomplete concerns. So every concern that came in was actioned and taken off the list. So that's what we have for our concerns list. And if there's any other questions, I can answer them now. If not, we can move on to the Fleet Facilities and Utilities report. Excuse me. Fire Hall and Grader Shop in Cherry Grove. The site for the new Grader Shop and Fire Hall in Cherry Grove was selected. It'll be located on Range Road 412, just north of 55. The MD owns the 8-acre parcel, and we have cleared that site already. Tenders have been received and are being evaluated right now. So we don't really have too much of an update for that, but that's a project that we were working on in Q4. Bridge construction, we had a few. Bridge file 13135 on Range Road 471 and 55 was awarded to Lafarge. They had, it's on a dead-end road, so the MD-owned temporary bridge was used to provide residents access during construction. Construction was started in November and was substantially completed in December. Some minor grading work will still be completed in the spring of 2024. There's a picture of it there for you. excuse me, the next picture is again the same bridge file where the MD bridge was installed to accommodate traffic during the construction. Next one, bridge file 74564. It was a bridge culvert on 420 north of 655 on the road to the Primrose Lake evaluation range. The contract was awarded to Charburn of Cold Lake. 420 is the sole access to the Primrose Lake evaluation range, so the bridge culvert was constructed in two halves to maintain access. So that's how it was done. It was done in two pieces. And the next page, or the next slide there, just shows a bit of the progress there. It was started and completed in November. And the next one after that is the final project. Next, equipment delivery. The MD took possession of a new truck-mounted liquid de-icer sprayer for the airport. There were some issues with this one, so we had sent it back, and we received a new unit already in hand already. So we also took possession of 4 new Freightliner trucks. Next couple of slides are them. Each one came with a front-mounted plow, a wing, a sanding box, and a regular box. So they were all ready for the snow that we were getting off and on, and so.
We have a question here for you.
Yeah, so we went away from the green just because of cost involved, or?
Through the chair, yeah, absolutely. The getting green vehicles is a special order with supply and demand the way it is. White was what we could get, so we're getting out of the green ones, I think, and going into the white ones.
So that's where we're going to go eventually? Okay, thanks.
Yes, it just makes it a lot simpler to get vehicles. And a little cheaper. We're saving, I think it was, looking back, I think it was about $2,500 or $3,000 just for a paint job. So yeah.
So what we saved on snowplow and sanding probably paid for those 4 Freightliners?
Well, I wouldn't say we saved money. I would say we didn't spend money. So maybe that might be a better way to categorize it. We just didn't spend the money on it.
If you're not spending it, you're saving it.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's an interesting discussion because, like most big municipalities, have huge budgets for snow removal, and then so that they talk about, if there's no snow, then they've saved millions of bucks. I don't know though. Do we actually have a budget for snow removal?
So through the chair to council, we are moving towards program budgeting here over the next couple of years, and you will see budgets that will very specifically allocate to snow removal, road construction, those kind of things. Right now, it's just in general, it's in the budget as an operational expense to operate trucks at X number of kilometers per gallon, and our fuel expenses and all of those other expenses. So no, we don't have it broke down specifically as a snowplow budget, but that is coming to a budget soon where we will break down those as programs as opposed to an individual line item that can't be tracked. Part of the question is when you have a budget, for example, our budget for fuel, I'm not sure what the number is, but let's say it's $1 million. We don't allocate that specifically to a snowplow program. We don't allocate that specifically to a garbage collection program. We just have a fuel budget. We are going to get much more sophisticated in the future, where we're going to start looking at, what our waste management program is a budget line item, our snowplow removal as a budget line item, and those kind of things. So that is coming, but right now we don't. I would suggest that whether it's savings or unspent money is a little bit of semantics. It will be at the end of the year. It will be unallocated and would end up as a surplus in the 2024 audit that would take place in the spring of 2025. And then council could certainly determine whether they wanted to put that money back in reserves as savings, or whether they wanted to take that money that had become unallocated because we didn't spend it on snow removal and allocate it to a different project. So either way, it's money that's not being spent, and it's money that certainly could be saved.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So you brought up another one, the fuel and oil contract, because we used to, the MD has to tender it out every couple of years or whatever. So who's got the contract right now, and is that ongoing for?
So it was tendered out late 2023, and it's gone to co-op.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on with equipment delivery, we took possession of a triaxle pup trailer to pull behind one of our gravel trucks. And we also took possession of the remaining 2 grader wings for the grader wing replacement program that we had. So all 4 are now in use. And that does it for the Fleet and Facilities Infrastructure Report. If there's any questions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So you mentioned topsoil pile at the yard, some issue or something. What was that all about?
A number of years ago, there was an incident where we were piling topsoil in the back corner of the yard, and it was encroaching and filling in some of the wetlands. Well, that happened to go through a contravention, so we remediated that. We paid some money into the fund to get Ducks Unlimited to reestablish a wetland somewhere else. So we got rid of some wetland on the yard because we needed it for our operation, and we enhanced a wetland somewhere else in the MD, and it was a take from one, give to the other, and then that was the incident that happened. It was just a contravention of the Water Act. That's already since been resolved. AEP has all but said it's done. So.
Thank you.
So just the Alberta Environment and Parks has said that's completely done now, or it's still just waiting for final approval?
We're doing, I think, one more year of monitoring
Okay.
of the location, but yeah, they have no issues with what we're doing now. We've done the remediation, or Ducks Unlimited has done the remediation in another area, and as long as there's no further contravention to what's happened, environment is not too concerned at this point.
Okay.
All right, so administration is recommending that council accepts the Infrastructure Services 2023 fourth quarterly report as information.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Subchuk, for making a motion that council accepts the Infrastructure Services 2023 fourth quarterly report as information. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. That's carried. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, council.
Okay, we'll move on to 6.3, CAO Office 2023 fourth quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I guess we get started with marketing communications.
Okay, we have a question here, comment?
I'll start with taking them off the table.
Oh, thank you.
I was going to do that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councillor Fideo that item 6.3 CAO Office 2023 fourth quarterly report be lifted from the table. We'll call for the vote. Thanks. That's carried. All right, go ahead.
Good morning.
Thanks.
In front of you, you have our Marketing and Communications Department report that covers both the fourth quarter of 2023 and also some year-end wrap-up details. On the first page, there's a brief overview of the projects that we worked on from October to December, including the BRFA open house in Cherry Grove for the fire hall, some work that we did with Kinnessee Ridge on billboards and video placement to market the winter season, ongoing training for all of our department members, and participating in the organization of the Snow Fever event held Family Day weekend. Our current ongoing projects are, as always, the internal employee newsletter that's produced every month, website updates that are done weekly, assisting Kinnessy Ridge with their marketing and comms efforts, council highlights, and our economic development newsletter, which I believe was sent out last week. Our recent project updates that were completed after the fourth quarter, one of the things that we've noticed is that our numbers for our resident newsletter have gone down a little bit. And so we started a marketing campaign whereby letting people know that if they have shut off the flyer distribution for their mailboxes, they are no longer getting any of the publications that we distribute through Canada Post. Because of course, as unaddressed ad mail, our adventure guide, any postcards that we produce, such as the drought one that we did for Ag Services lately, and Rural Review, aren't being delivered to those residents. Now, I do believe that the post offices do leave extra copies sitting on counters so that people can grab them. But we are doing an ongoing marketing campaign to let people know that if they have stopped that, how they can sign up for digital copies to be sent straight to their email, or they can contact us and we can put one in the mail for them after that. Our social media page continues to be fairly popular. In the fourth quarter, sorry. Our most popular posts were about outdoor rinks. Whether or not they were open or closed, they were the top of the pile. We had a reach on Facebook of over 26,000. We have total Facebook followers of almost 42,000. That number seems to fluctuate quite a bit, and I believe we are at saturation level now. I don't think we're going to see that change very much at all, but if it does, we'll be happy. For 2023, for a year-end wrap-up for socials, we saw a total reach of 282,700 on 365 posts, which means we're pretty much posting every day on average, with 11,900 content interactions, which are the smiley faces and the thumbs ups and the thank you and the laughing faces, and over 11,000 link clicks, which typically in our posts, those are links that go back to our website that provide our residents and our visitors with more information. With website metrics, finally, Google Analytics is working. And for the fourth quarter, we saw just under 70,000 page views on the MD website, which is an increase of almost 25,000 at the same time last year. And we saw almost 22,000 users, which is a 5,900 count increase over last year. As always, our homepage is the most popular one. And again, as always, the second most popular page visited on our website is for jobs. And you'll see that mirrors the information that you received from Human Resources today. Our GIS maps and addressing page continues to score fairly high. This page is where people can apply for their blue signs to be replaced at no cost. We still do, as Lisa could tell you, have a few of those faded signs out in the MD, and this is where people can come and request to have those replaced. In 2023, the final numbers for the website, we saw 317,661 total page views with over 100,000 visitors. And that is an increase of over 40,000 page views from 2022. In 24, we're going to continue to provide timely information, timely, accurate information for our residents and visitors.
Tracy, I just got to interrupt for a sec because I have to leave.
Sure.
And so that's going to cause problems with council here, I think. But anyway, just I don't know if the deputy chair wants to or the chair wants to say anything?
How long are you gone for the rest of the day, or?
Yep.
Okay, I guess that will effectively end our meeting.
That, we'll lose quorum.
As we lose quorum, so.
Okay, that's it for my report.
Sorry about that, everybody.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Regards to that. So, the 282,000, and, you know, on the 365 posts, that's just for the MD, that's not including for KR,
Sorry.
Canusa Ridge? On your social media wrap-up for
Yes,
2023?
that's simply the MD's
That's just the
webpage.
MD.
Yes, Kinnessee Ridge reports their own metrics for
So,
their.
is that the MD, is that including our campgrounds and all that stuff as well then?
So the 282,700, that's just our Facebook page.
That's just on Facebook
It's
page,
just off Facebook page.
covering Parks and Rec as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
So if you're looking at the website, the 317,661, that is just the MD webpage as well. And the Kinnessee Ridge page metrics, sorry, are completely separate from that as well.
okay, sounds good, thank you.
I got a question. Do we have to pay the post office to put our row reviews in there?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know, but I want to know now.
All right, I guess anybody's free to have informal conversation here, but the meeting is officially over because we don't have a quorum, so. Sorry.
All right,